I want to create a Tailwind just-in-time project using CodeSpaces. Now I can use this template that I created for my CodeSwing, but it's going to need some additional tooling. And that's because the JIT compiler is going to need to be able to do some compiling. Now, because of that, I'm also going to need to use the regular version of CodeSpaces. So I'm going to set this up by starting with the boot swing template, and I'll click on this button right here. I'm going to call this Tailwind, and I'm going to create a repository here. Now, instead of hitting the period or changing the URL to a .dev, I'm going to click on code right here, and I'll switch over to the CodeSpaces tab, and I'll click on new CodeSpace. Now this is going to give me a full Visual Studio Code environment, which means that I can run scripts on this. So I'm going to pull up the terminal, and I'm going to need to do some additional installations here. All right, first I'm going to create a package.json file. I can create a default one by saying npm init -y. You'll see that it is now over here in the document. Let's go ahead and hide the open editors. And there it is right there. Now we'll also need to install some additional modules. So let's go ahead and do npm install -d Tailwind CSS JIT plus Tailwind CSS. And I'll also need to install Post CSS. Tailwind is, as a matter of fact, a Post CSS plugin. All right, let's go ahead and clear this out. We're also going to need some configuration files. So that means including a tailwind.config.js and a postcss.config file. So we can do that using npx this time. So npx tailwind css init -p. This is going to generate two files for us with the defaults, this postcss config.js and this tailwind config.js. Now we're going to need a script in the package.json file to start our container with. So let's go ahead and close these out for now. And I'm going to change this test script to be start. And this is going to run the Tailwind command. And it's going to need an input as well as an output file. So for the input, I'm going to create a source folder. And I'm going to create a file in there called src.css. So it's going to take whatever is in the CSS file, see if there's any custom styles for Tailwind CSS in there. And then I'm going to output this into just the style.css file. So that would be this file right here. CodeSwing will automatically read the style.css file as well as the index.html file, and if you have one, the script.js as well. Finally, we're going to need to issue the watch command here. That way, this CodeSpace will automatically watch for any changes into any one of our files, mainly this CSS file. If anything has changed there, then it will recompile our CSS for us. So I'm going to save that. Now I need to create this source.css file. So I'm going to make a folder here. This is going to be called source. And in there, I'll create a file called src.css. And in here, I need to type in the basic imports for a Tailwind configuration. So when you start Tailwind, as I mentioned, it is a Post CSS plugin. And Post CSS allows you to import things, right? And so you could do that with Tailwind using the Tailwind command. And then you import a number of things. So I'm going to import the base styles, components, and utilities. So the base is usually like the browser resets. Component is where the custom components would be. And then utilities are things like media queries. The reason I'm making this file is so that I can customize my CSS if I want to. The way that Tailwind works, if you want to create a custom style, you could do that using this document. Let's go ahead and save this. I'm not using Bootstrap anymore, so I'm going to go into this codeswing.json file, and I'll just get rid of this right here. Now we'll also need to turn on JIT mode because it's not on by default. So we'll do that in the Tailwind config file. We'll say mode JIT, and then we're going to need to specify which file we want the processor to look at for any styles. And this purge is going to have the list of files that we want to check. So here I will just say index.html. You can also use wildcards and patterns here if you want to. Let's go ahead and save that. All right, a couple more things to set this up. In the dev container, So I need to add a couple of things here. I need to say post create command, and I want to run an npm install command whenever the CodeSpace is created. And then I'm going to say post start command and run an npm start command. Now we can see if this is working by issuing an npm start command. Now this will process whatever is here in the source.css file, and it'll output it to style.css. So you should see something like this. So it's 639 lines right now, but this is actually a lot shorter than if I were to take out. So if you wanted to see how big this was without the JIT compiler, you can take it out of JIT mode, and then it would actually probably need to get rid of both of these, and then it would generate the actual gargantuan file. So if I take these out, canceling this, so I did Control-C, and we'll run the npm start command. And you can see that now, if I scroll all the way, it is a lot bigger. So this is, what is this thing? 186,000 lines. So you're getting a really good deal with just 600 lines of code here. And make sure that we are processing it back into a style.css. And look, it's already 639. And we'll need to make some changes. And we need to make some changes into this index.html because this is clearly bootstrap code here. It's sort of similar, but not the same. So I'm just going to say text center here, and I will do something simple here. So I'll say for the headline, this is going to be text. And this is one of the cool things about Tailwind, that you can actually, instead of creating or using any of the default styles, you can actually, in brackets, put any number that you want right here. So this is going to generate some text that is 50 pixels in size, EX6, and then we'll use font extra bold, and we'll use a font color, text red 500, tracking tight for the headline. And for the paragraph, we'll just use some other classes here just to make it look nice. We'll do margin top 4. We'll issue a max width of 2XL, padding, a little bit of padding horizontally of 6 units. And we'll create a text size here of text XL and give it a gray color for the text, and go ahead and center it with MX Auto. So the thing about Tailwind is that you end up writing a lot more classes, but everything is closer to the way that the browser expects it. So if we take a look at the style.css, you'll see that it's probably a little bit bigger. It's all the way to 675 now, and it's created some of those classes that we're currently using. Let's go ahead and see if we can open up the code swing. We'll say change layout. Let's see, we'll try split bottom. And there it is. Looks like I've got a little bit of a problem here. Also, I don't really need this JavaScript anymore, so I'll get rid of it. And as I'm doing this, I really just need this type of layout here. Or I will fix this up by modifying this so that the container is at the top, and we don't need some of the sizes down here on the paragraph. And we'll put the MX Auto on the main container, and that way it will center things according to the width of the element. Finally, because I want to use this in other places, I'm going to make sure that I'll do a git status here to check out the files that I've changed. It's like I may want to add node modules into my git ignore. And let's go ahead and clear this out. And we'll add these, commit them. And we'll go ahead and push these to the repo. And now we should have a nice Tailwind template. You don't have to make this one yourself. You can just use the one that I've created for you. And now we can play around with the just-in-time mode in Tailwind CSS. All right, just one more thing. Just like with the other template, I'm going to go into settings, make sure that this is a template repository. And now whenever I want to start a tail swing project, I can just use this template.